Cool, being here. Hi, so my name is Eli Liberman. I've been with Google for just over 5 years now. And then during the time, I've seen how the agency landscape is changing, how the way that our products are changing, the way that our partners are changing, the way that the industry is changing, the way that advertiser expectations are changing in terms of what they're doing, and then in the way that consumer behavior is also changing. So I'll talk about that a bit. And I'll share with you the trends and changes that we see here in Google in terms of how the consumers, the advertisers, the agency role is changing, and what you need to do in order to adapt to those changes to make sure that you're still relevant to your users, to your customers, to the advertisers. So let's first look at what's going to happen in how the marketing context is going to look at in 2020. So we estimate by next year there's going to be about over 10 billion devices globally. So you must ask yourself how that can be, because there is less than 10 billion people in the planet, right? But the answer is very, very simple, because now we engage with the internet on many devices, each one of you, right? So the simple one is obviously the desktop and the mobile, but what other platform do you use in order to connect?
Smartwatch.
Smartwatch, yeah. Tablet, yeah. Sorry? Smart thermostat, yeah. Smart thermostat at home, yeah. It's a good Google product. Well done. TV, yeah. The smart TVs.
Assistants.
Sorry?
Assistants.
Assistants. Cars, yeah. So on average, each one of us here is actually connecting probably on average about 5 different devices, right? So we have a lot of other devices. There's also smart refrigerators going to come in, and there's going to be a lot of devices going to be connected. Most of them not a refrigerator, but most of them are going to be mobile, right? And so they connect on the go, and then they adjust as well as we go and provide us information all the time, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is going to happen is that at the moment, TV spend is higher than digital spend, but that's going to change. So the tipping point is going to happen between in the next 18 months or so, okay? Because the eyeballs are already changed, right? If you think about it, where we spend most of the time, or when most consumers spend most of the time now, it's more on digital properties and actually in front of the TV, okay? And then it's obviously as you go into the younger generation, it changes even more, right? My kids, they don't understand the fact that they need to turn on TV and watch whatever is being broadcast. They're used to the fact that they could tell the TV what they want to see, right? They have Netflix, they have iPlayer, they have other apps. The whole fact of being broadcast is weird to them. It will come back in a minute, I think. Yeah. So the eyeballs are already there, but the TV spend is still higher than the digital spend. But that's natural, because when changes happen, it always takes time for the trend to happen and then for the money to follow. But actually, the money will follow the eyeballs. So digital spend will surpass TV in 2020. Another thing is a lot of our users are actually mobile or using mobile devices all the time, right? So we're talking about the car, we're talking about the phone, smartwatch. A lot of stuff is happening on mobile, and we are predicting about 70% of interaction will be on mobile devices. Another big trend will be programmatic. So a lot of buying of media are going to happen on programmatic sessions. The last thing is more about the economic globally and the macroeconomics, and that's we expect there's going to be a slightly slowdown in the economics that also affects the way that we work as marketeers. So what does that actually mean to us? It means that for us, the marketing context, the way that we communicate, the way the marketeers communicate with consumers, is happening in multi-devices, multi-screen. There's a lot of frictions between those. So we now connect to the users. If in the past the purchase panel was very, very simple, you were going on a desktop, searching for something, clicking and making a purchase. Now there's a lot more touch points. The purchase funnel is a lot more complex. So you might start your search or start your discovery of an item on a desktop, follow up on a consideration on a different device, and actually complete a purchase on your Google Assistant device at home, for example. Okay, so we need to adapt and to make sure that actually when the consumers are there looking for us, at that right moment, we actually provide the right message at the right time on the right device. And just working on one device the way that we used to do in the past won't work in 2020, because we need to make sure that we're there at the right moment. Okay? And obviously, with the other global changes, there are also impacts that affects the way we work as companies, the way that economically works. There's a lot of demand now by a lot of consumers now to have better understanding what goes on with privacy issues, with transparency. So people are more interested to know and understand, why they're being advertised the way they're being advertised, and us as marketeers and agency, we need to make sure that we adapt to those changes. So what that means in terms of the advertisers. So one very interesting point that we actually see is that CMOs are taking general manager roles. It happens, for example, in McDonald's, because marketeers who used to very, very focus on very, very similar or narrow angle of their work, which was mainly on marketing, now actually are responsible for a lot more things within the company. They're responsible of the growth of the company. They're seen as the future growth of the engine of the company. And a lot of companies now actually have their CMOs taking on a more general managerial roles within those companies. Another thing is technology is getting more complex. So things that, and Omri alluded to that before, in the past we had like maybe one network, one type of advertising solution. Now there are many networks, many advertising solutions within that network, many devices we need to work with. We need to send different messages and different devices at different points, at different locations, so a lot more complex than it used to be in the past. And the other thing is that there's a lot of rising in the procurement area. In the past, agency would win a customer, and that would be their agency of record. They would do for them everything. And now, as things become more complex, and there's also more interest into transparency by the companies, what we actually see is that you don't just win that company and you do everything for her, but actually there is several providers, separate suppliers that actually provide marketing solutions to companies, which means there's more competition, but also more opportunities for you. So what that means for agencies. So all those changes I spoke to, both in terms of how the market is changing and how the advertisers are changing, means there are changes, and there's a need by the agencies to actually change the way that they operate and behave. But it also means that there are also a lot of opportunities here for new streams of revenue, because suddenly you could do other things you couldn't do in the past. In the past it was very difficult to get into a company because they were only using one agency. Now that they're using multiple agencies, suddenly there's opportunities for you to get in as one of the suppliers for the companies, right? But obviously, if there's more agency working with companies, there's more competition. So the trick here is, how do you differentiate yourself? How do you make sure that those changes that are happening in the marketing landscape, you adopt to those changes and make sure you're still relevant in 2020 and are able to deliver on the changes that are happening in the market. Any questions so far? Cool. So we spoke about those changes that are happening. So I want to talk to you about what are the three things or the three bets that we see that are really influence the business of an agency in the upcoming years. We're talking a lot about 2020 because 2020 is a sexy and nice round number, but 2020 is not so far away, right? It's next year. Right? So we really need to wake up and realize that the change is happening, and the change is happening now. So I'll talk to you about three things. The bottom line, profitability, technology, and talent. The bottom line is all about the fact that a lot of our costs is spent on people, okay? And we need to be very, very smart in the way that we actually make sure that we spend those costs. But we also need to make sure that we actually create new revenue streams that are going to come in and help us in order to help us become more profitable. Because margin is getting squeezed. We can't charge the same way that we used to charge in the past. There's a lot of transparency and visibility asked by users. So if in the past you could charge an amount of money which included a lot of things that you actually did, but it was very, very difficult to quantify, now actually the advertiser is asking to understand exactly the breakdown of the cost, how much was paid for the media players, how much you're charging as your own fee. And that change in terms of transparency, visibility, also makes it more difficult for you in terms of profitability. Second bit is technology. Technology is evolving all the time in terms of both changes of, we're saying the way that we connect, so devices obviously, but also the advertising solutions are changing all the time and becoming more and more complex and more focused and targeted. And the last bit is the most difficult thing, I think, is anything to do with talent. So making sure that actually either people working for you and actually adopting to the change and are able to do the tasks that you might not have needed to do in the past, but also for you, actually you learn and you develop yourself, you actually change the way that you work and the way you approach things in terms of the way that you develop and learn as individuals, not just as a company. So let's deep dive into those three sections. So the bottom line. So what does it mean? It means actually that you need to make sure that you diversify as much as you can your revenue stream. So if in the past you could do very, very simple, or very not simple, but one bit of the advertising world, or we were focused on providing services, an agency was very focused. We also share the slide, so you're more than welcome to take the photos, but we'll share the slide with you later, so if it's easier for you. So it means that you need to make sure that you actually create new revenue stream. You are able to provide your customers new services that you didn't provide before, or more holistic services that you didn't provide before. Second thing is that you need to make sure that you position your solutions as one that actually serves the changes in the markets. Okay, so as the market changes and there are different demands by consumers, you need to make sure that you actually adopt to those changes and make sure that you're on top of what's happening in the market, and you make sure that you actually knows what type of solution are suitable for the type of partners. So what that mean? It means that now advertiser and user, because they are more interested in transparency and visibility, you need to make sure that you actually provide solution that's provide tracking accordingly across the whole purchase funnel. So if in the past you were focused on impression and clicks, now it's more about the talk about ROI, return on investment, is much more significant compared to what it used to be in the past. And you need to use the solution to make sure that actually you're tracking those type of stages in the purchase funnel across the purchase funnel, so you can make sure that you actually deliver on those targets you actually work with your customers. So making sure that you have Google Analytics in place, making sure that you have everything connected, making sure that all the steps throughout the funnel are actually tracked, because there is more demand now to visibility by consumers, by advertisers, by users, and you need to make sure that you actually show the value you're actually delivering, because if you are able to show that value they are delivering, the whole discussion, the whole talk about with your consumers or with the users or with your advertisers is changing. So it's not about how much cost I actually cost as an agency to you for advertising. It's actually how much the value, how much extra return on investment you're actually generating by using the services that actually I provide as an agency. Okay, so the whole discussion talks about ROAS, return on ad spend, talks about return on investment. The whole discussion is about what value I could generate for you, and not what service I'll provide you just as a service provider. Okay, so the whole chat changes from services to value. And obviously, one of the things we offer in Google is all those attribution solutions that are available. So make sure that whatever you do, when you're creating campaigns on Google or other networks, doesn't matter. Just make sure that you have anything to do with attribution and measurement in place. Because attribution and measurement, making sure that you're able to show the value that they actually provide to your users or to your customers is critical in order to survive in this changing age, in this changing ecosystem that happens. Next part is technology, and the other sections today will talk about technology even more. So we'll talk about AI, ML, and those are not buzzwords. And I know that a lot of people think that AI, artificial intelligence, and ML, machine learning, is a bit of a buzzword, and a lot of people use it because it sounds good and sexy. But it actually, a lot of technology now is being actually driven by that. So how many people here have Google Photos installed? Yeah. So Google Photos, for example, for those who don't know, please go in the break install it. It's very, very good. Google Photos is like what Gmail does for email, but for photos. Right? That's a very simple way to explain it. And basically, you're able to upload all your photos in the cloud. But what's really strong about Google Photos is that you don't need to tag everything, but you could search almost everything like on a Google search engine. Right? And then when you search for it, you'll search for a dog, it will show you pictures of dogs. You'll search for a bike, it will show you a picture of bicycles. You'll search for a beach, show you a picture of a beach, without even tagging, because the way that the machine learning works is that as you provide more and more data, so the largest data set you have, the machine learns how a dog looks like, how a beach looks like, how a bicycle looks like. So when you search for it, it actually detects that in your photos and actually are able to use that. So Google today has a lot of products that use machine learning and AI behind the scenes. So another example is Gmail. I don't know if you have seen, but Gmail now in the bottom, it has the smart compose. So it shows you like replies that you can actually automatically reply. So it reads your email, understand the context, and then try to help you out by proposing some quick replies on those. And it actually also adapting. So it learns your style. So if you reply in a certain style, it would keep suggesting those styles of things. So technology is changing, and that means that we need to adapt to that technology changes. And the way that we used to do in the past will change. It's going to be different tomorrow. And I don't know what the change is going to be, but I promise you there are going to be changes, because that's the way that this world is working. Changes are always happening, and they're becoming faster and faster. So what does it mean to you? It means that you need to make sure that you have everything installed in place and to make use of all those smart solutions that are available by Google and other players in the market, just to use all that smart technology, because it actually works. Okay, it actually works. Those new devices, those smart solutions, smart campaigns, smart shopping campaigns by Google, for example, actually deliver better results than the old way of doing things. And letting the machine work as long as the machine has enough data, right? So the whole, we were talking about it before, you need to make sure that you have all the infrastructure in place, because you need to have tracking along the whole purchase funnel to make sure that actually, when which ads actually deliver the right purchase, right? So you need to make sure that the infrastructure in place, and then use all the smart solutions that are available by Google and by other players in the market. Last point is about talent. So again, this affects us all in this room, but it also affects people who work for you, or people you work with, or people in the industry overall. The industry is changing rapidly. New things are coming up all the time, and we need to make sure that actually, the people are suitable to do those tasks that are coming up. Okay, so the way that if you knew to have to do PPC 2 years ago, you actually need to change the way you actually do PPC in 2 years' time, because the task that you used to do 2 years ago won't be needed to be done in 2 years' time, because technology is changing. A lot of stuff is going to be now done by the machine. So a lot of things that you used to do manually in the past is not needed and need to change. But it's a great opportunity for you, because now you need a lot of stuff that you do manually. Now you should change and move more to the more creative side of becoming a marketeer. So thinking about strategy, thinking about how you're going to approach things, thinking about things from a higher level, because we tend to be boggled a lot by the manual day-to-day work, and it's very, very difficult sometimes to stop and just have a higher level, have a higher view of things. But as things are changing, and a lot of the manual, repeated tasks are being done by computers, by machines, it's actually going to have opportunity for us to actually stop and look and actually deliver those creative, strategic values to our users. But that means that we also need to learn and change, because we might not be so aware of those, how to define a strategy, how to build a good creative. So we need to change and adopt, and we need to learn. So I encourage you all, when you go back, tomorrow into the workplace, always to dedicate some time during your week to learn, because that's, you tend to be a lot of time being, in flux with emails and calls and meetings, and you don't have enough time for you to learn. So put the time in your calendar, dedicate some time once a week, a few hours, just to learn new things that are happening. There's stuff on the Google's Partners Academy. There's stuffs in other places you could learn. But really go and learn and learn about the new things that are coming up, because you need to keep up in order to be ready for the changes that are coming, in the next 18 months. And you also need to make sure that you actually, make sure that other people you work with also learn and adopt, right? So really encourage other people as well to do the same. So to just summarize it all, we're talking about the technology and changing. The world is changing, more and more devices, different networks. The way that we connect to the internet is changing. Consumer behavior is changing a lot, right? So the way that we act as consumers also changes. Means that we as marketeers need to adapt for that. For example, do you know how many times we reach out to our pocket to take out our phone a day, on average? 150. Well done. Someone has been to a Google lecture before. So 150 times a day we reach out to our phone on average. That's a survey that was done in 2017. I think it's probably outdated, right? But we're reaching to our phone a lot of times. So technology is changing. The way that consumers are behaving, we're impatient now as a consumer, right? If in the past, for example, I'll give you an example. If in the past we saw a lot of searches in Google for the world for restaurants around me. We saw a slight increase every year. Since 2016, we see an increase in the use of words near me. What do you think we see a decrease, and the use of words near me? People don't search anymore with restaurants near me. They don't use the word near me anymore.
Because of Google migration? Google already knows it's near me.
Yeah, because people already expect the machine or Google to already know that you are searching for restaurants near me. So you don't need to tell it that you're searching restaurants near me. You're just searching for restaurants, and you expect Google to already know that you're actually interested in restaurants near you. So the expectation, the way that people are acting as consumers is changing, and we need to adapt to that change, and we need to make sure that as marketers we adapt to that change. Technology is changing as well, so we need to make sure that that we're using the latest technology. We're adopting the most advanced solution or advertising solutions that are available in the market, and we need to make sure that we, as people and people working with us, adopt and change the way that we work. Because I can promise you one thing: there's going to be change. I don't know what's the change going to happen in the next 18 months and what type of change is going to happen, but change is going to happen. And I can promise you another thing: the speed of change is also changing. Changes are happening faster now than it used to be in the past. So if in the past it took 2-3 years to adopt for things, now it takes several months. So the pace of changing is rapidly increasing, and we need to make sure that we need to be relevant to everyone. But it's a great opportunity for us, because if we are relevant, if we're actually changing the way that we're acting, if we're learning and adopting ourselves to the change, it could mean that there's a great opportunity for you out there, because those who can't adopt and can't change, it's going to be very, very difficult for them in the next 2020. So that's all for me. If you have any questions, I'm here, or you could reach out to me during the break, and I'm happy to answer those.